Greetings, Nephilim. It's Leviathan here. What's going on, everybody? It's Wednesday, March 22nd? Oh, dates are tough. Yes, that's correct, because the Season 10, the big 1-0, starts on March 31st, and that's next Friday, so 9 days from now. But yesterday, surprisingly, actually, patch 2.5 went live. We didn't quite think it was going to go live the week before the season started, because history kind of shows that the patch tends to start on like the Tuesday before the season is supposed to start, so that would have been next Tuesday. But hey, no complaints from this guy. Very happy to get in here and try some of this awesome quality of life stuff that we got nice and early. And so without further ado, I want to hop into the patch notes and kind of go over with you guys some of the changes and quality of life things that you can look forward to. So without further ado, let's give them a little read through. Patch 2.5, it's live. We're rhyming all the time, man, there it is. Okay, so just scrolling through here, you know, there's the normal introductions of here's the table of contents, all the stuff, blah, blah, blah. Feel free to read through the things, but it's mostly just general, whatever. First up, though, general Armory. The Armory, one of the big features that we saw at BlizzCon 2016. The ability to save builds. People have wanted this forever, and it's finally here in patch 2.5. It works like a charm. I'll go ahead and just read the feature to you. Players may now save up to 5 different builds per character using the Armory. This new feature can be found in the Town Hub with each act. Saving a build in the Armory will snapshot your character's current gear, the socketed gems, active and passive skills, and canized cube powers. Equipping a saved Armory build will automatically swap items and gear between the character and the stash. So a couple of things to note here. Your paragon won't be reset, so if you earn any additional paragon points, you have to set that for yourself. This is also not storage, so think of it as sort of like when you go to the leaderboards and you click on someone's, character and you want to see what their build was. It almost looks identical to that. So it's just the game saving your kind of loadout and being able to quickly swap from it left to right. But you need to have the gear still. So if you like randomly salvage a bow that you had in a previous build, you know, it'll tell you, hey, you're missing one of the items for this build that you saved previously. Do you still want to equip it and stuff like that? So it kind of alerts you. It's smart that way. And it'll also do some cool things too, like if you had the build saved when you had a Bane of the Powerful at rank 50, for instance, and then you go and you get a rank 80 Bane of the Powerful, when you next equip it, it'll actually search for your highest ranked gem and use that instead, so you would get the 80 gem, even if you still had the 50 around. One thing that we did learn, and some people were testing, was like if they saved the build and then they had like gems on another character that were saved to that build, it's not going to swap it from that character, like it has to be in your stash or on your particular character's inventory. So, Armory, good stuff. 5 saves per character. Next up, the crafting mat storage tab. That was another feature that we saw at BlizzCon 2016. This is great because it's now pulling the crafting materials completely out of your stash, out of your inventory, freeing up some space. Starting in patch 2.5, crafting materials picked up or obtained through salvaging will now appear in a separate storage tab, freeing up space in the shared stash. Oh my goodness, all the S's. This tab can be accessed through the inventory window. So when you open up your character's inventory, there's a little anvil at the bottom left. You click on that and it will show you like, here's your veiled crystals, you have 1000, here's your DBs, you have, 10, etc. and so forth. And saved in there are your standard crafting materials, your legendary bounty crafting materials, your reagents from the Hellfire organs for making Hellfire amulets, and that's it. And some people want to see like gems in there, some people want to see Greater Rift keys. And I can see I can see both sides of wanting it and not providing it because they aren't technically crafting materials. But if there was just like void storage, or they come up with a cooler name for it, then you can put all sorts of like collectible knickknacks in there. Things that you might not interact with all that often but would want to save. And also an undocumented change in this patch is because you can now quickly swap between those builds and whatnot, unsocketing and socketing, well, I guess mostly just unsocketing gems no longer has a cost attached with it. Alright, so a couple of class changes. The Crusader Shield Glare Divine Verdict rune has been updated to apply its secondary effect even if the target is immune to crowd control. So that's nice, you still get the damage boost even if, you know, there's some Juggernaut that can't be slowed or blind, or if your CC reduction is so high on the mob that, you know, it wouldn't have an effect. You can still get that DPS boost. Barbarian Seismic Slam Rumble rune will now consume all remaining fury and increase the rune's damage over time component by 15% weapon damage per point of fury spent. I know some people have been trying some Seismic Slam Leapquake builds with this, and apparently it's going pretty well, so this is a welcome change. And then for Demon Hunters, there's a bug fix on Impale Ricochet. A bug was fixed where the second bounce granted by this rune would sometimes fail if enemies were packed tightly together. And this is important because there is a new item that very much improves Impale, and as a result makes the Shadow set really good for Demon Hunters now. So let's move along. Items, Primal Ancient items, one of the big ticket topics from the PTR. These came into the game, and here's a little bit of developer philosophy about it. Primal Ancients are for players who have largely completed gearing for their build and finished their season journey but want to continue playing. They're also for non-seasonal players who have great gear and spend most of their time gaining paragon levels and upgrading legendary gems. We want to extend the excitement of seeing gear drop or spending blood shards at Kadala past the point of getting Ancients in every slot. Primals provide an avenue for dedicated players to complete a build without feeling like required upgrades. And then for those of you who haven't been following some of the news on Primals, here's exactly what they are. Legendary and set items will now have a chance to roll as Primal Ancients. These items are much more rare than Ancient items, and they have perfect Ancient level stats on all affixes, including the item's legendary power. Note that Primal Ancients will only begin dropping after a character on the player's account has reached Greater Rift 70 solo, and there are also separate unlocks for normal and hardcore, as well as seasonal and non-seasonal characters. The stats on these items will be tailored to the character class you are playing when the item first drops. So basically just like smart loot. It'll be a Crusader shield that you'll likely see as a primal and not a Carlace point or something like that. The stats, read that. Primal Ancient items salvage into 15 Forgotten Souls, and also now Ancient items salvage into 3 Forgotten Souls. So basically, Primal Ancients are perfect Ancients. They're very rare, less than 1%. Some people are saying maybe around 1% chance for them to drop. You can craft them, upgrading rares to legendaries. You can reforge them, so using your bounty materials to make just reforge your legendary. They can drop. You can gamble them from Kadala, so there's multiple sources to try and get them. Again, you do need to do that Greater Rift 70 solo to unlock them. So I've said what I've said on it in the past. So I'm curious to see what it'll be like during a season. I think after a season, we'll have a good idea on how much these impact the game and how good or bad they feel to chase after. Alright. Legendary items. The following items have been adjusted. Rhymeheart increased the chance to proc its legendary item power on frozen targets from 10% to 20%. Meh. And then Strong Arm Bracers. The damage bonus from this item is now applied when the knockback occurs rather than when the enemy lands, and the damage bonus duration has been increased to 6 seconds. So nice quality of life change there. Little buff to the Strong Arms. Class-specific items. Crusader, Roland's Legacy, got a nice boost. The damage bonus has been increased on the 4-piece set bonus to 2500%, up from 1250 for the damage on Sweep Attack and Shield Bash. I don't think many Crusaders are still using this, but maybe one day they'll keep adding to this and eventually it'll start to hit home. But I don't know if it's going to require a rework or just different skills. Some people are saying add Blessed Shield to this, and that could be really cool because then you could do a ranged Rollins with all the speed and everything. I wouldn't mind seeing it. So hopefully we get to test it someday. Monk in his favor, 6 set bonus, got a boost as well. Damage bonus for each Mystic ally has been increased to 125%. Up from 100%, and there's some builds for Mystic or for Inna's that are looking really strong. Even last season, Inna's generator was like the safer Raiment generator build, but now it's going to be even more powerful than it previously was. And people are coming up with a new build, which I guess is kind of an old build but better. The Inna's Exploding Palm Monk. So you might see some of those knocking around in Season 10. Lots of builds to look forward to. pardon me. Witch Doctor, Zunimasa's Haunt, 6-set bonus, damage increase. Damage bonus has been increased to 2500%, and that's up from 1500% when enemies are hit by your mana spenders for 8 seconds. Zuni's always been kind of like the little brother, the step cousin child of Helltooth. So while this isn't the most enticing change, it is a solid change, a good change, and Zunimasa is the Hadrig's gift that Witch Doctors will get. So, you know, a nice boost to start your season if you're going Witch Doctor. And Wizard Delsier's Magnum Opus, tons of changes. The 2-piece set bonus cooldown of slow time is reduced by 3 seconds from 2 seconds. When casting Arcane Orb, Energy Twister, Explosive Blast, Magic Missile, Shock Pulse, Spectral Blade, and Wave of Force, the 4-piece set bonus damage reduction has been increased to 60, up from 50. And then lastly, the 6-piece set bonus, enemies take 3500% increased damage while inside slow time, that's up from 2500%. And the slow and damage bonus persist on enemies for 5 seconds after they exit slow time. So they're really trying to push DMO. I think it's still not quite there for Wizards. I think you're going to see a lot of Lightning Wizards still persist in Season 10, even with some changes to the Monald Heal Ring, which we'll talk about in just a moment here. But DMO just doesn't seem to quite be there yet. But it's clear that they want to push it. So we'll see. I don't know, maybe someone will make something of it. Let's go ahead. Some existing class-specific legendary items have been updated to include a unique legendary power. You'll have to find them again, by the way, so only new versions of the items will roll with the added power. And this will be the Demon Hunter's Holy Point Shot, a new quiver, old quiver, new power. Impale throws 2 additional knives, and this is shaking up the meta a little bit because people are thinking that the Demon Hunter may actually be the Rift Killer, the Rift Guardian killer in those 4-man groups where, you know, it's very delineated, where the monk, you know, the Raiment 6-piece monk was kind of like your Guardian killer, and your Witch Doctor was the one that was really doing the AoE throughout the Rift. Well, people are saying now the Wizard could contend for that because the Lightning Wizard kills bosses really quickly. Maybe the Demon Hunter with this Shadows and Impale could contend for it. Some other builds, like, it's crazy. So we might see some nice mix-ups to the meta. Functionality of some items has changed. For the Barber, this weapon is now a ceremonial knife instead of a dagger, which allows it to roll the same damage as other Witch Doctor items. Damage bonus to the final explosion of this item's legendary power has also been reintroduced. With this change, the item's legendary power will also be updated in Kanai's Cube for those who already extracted it, and players will need to re-equip the power in the cube for the updated version to appear. Been hearing some talk from the Witch Doctors, and apparently this still isn't like all that great. It's a step in the right direction, but it might need a little bit more love before it changes or shakes up the Witch Doctor meta. And then the Monald Heal, like I was mentioning, got a little change. Wizard pets such as Hydras will now also proc the damage component of Monald Heal when attacking a target, and the number of procs generated by channeled skills while using this item has been reduced by 25%. So that's kind of the nerf to it. But with the addition of Hydras being able to proc it, you're seeing now Lightning Hydra Wizards, and they still look really, really strong. So I'm kind of excited for friends to run the Wizard, because I never play Wizard. And I hope that there will at least be one in my party or nearby for calling on one in Season 10. Illusory Boots now allow the player to pass through enemies and the Waller affix when using Furious Charge, Whirlwind, Strafe, and Tempest Rush. So just updating some skills that will interact with the Illusory Boots. I didn't even realize that most of them didn't at this point, so that's good, making that item more useful. And then Bug Fix, Legacy of Raycor, fixed a bug where the 6-piece bonus of this set would not buff earthquake damage. Didn't even know that was happening. Alrighty then. For the monsters, they fixed an issue that caused elite enemies with the Juggernaut affix to incorrectly take normal damage from slow time when combined with Delsier's Magnum Opus. So of course, you know, pushing that DMO forward, gotta fix the bugs with it. Some changes to Adventure Mode. This is pretty important. So for Greater Rifts, the requirement for, or I guess it's just labeled Greater Rifts, but, well, it's kind of tied to Greater Rifts. So the requirement for participating in certain difficulty levels in public games has been changed from the current Paragon level to the highest solo Greater Rift clear. So previously it was gated at whatever Paragon level, like certain Paragon levels you had to be to actually do these public games at certain difficulties. Now it's actually tied to doing a solo Greater Rift that's pretty much equivalent to the difficulty. So, you know, for Torment 1 through 6, no requirement, but for Torment 7, you have to do a solo Greater Rift 30. For Torment 8, solo Greater Rift 35, and on, you know, going up 5 for each as the difficulty increases. So if you want to do that Torment 13 public bounty game or whatever, you're going to have already done a solo Greater Rift 60 in order to join. It's going to be a nice change for people who want to avoid leechers and things in their game, so I'm totally welcome for it. I don't do a lot of public games, but you know, this doesn't affect private games at all. You can still invite people to any difficulty in your private games. This change only applies to players on PC and Mac. Additionally, several quality of life changes have been made. The frequency of several tile sets in Greater Rifts have been adjusted, so the caves, the keep deaths, and Zoltankul's archives will appear less often, while Stinging Winds, Festering Woods, Pandemonium, Tristram Cathedral, that's actually spelled incorrectly, Ariat Crater, and Realm of the Banished will appear more often. The Flooded Causeway and Westmarch locations will no longer appear as the first floor of Greater Rifts, and then the number of spear-throwing goatmen and skeleton archers that appear in Greater Rifts have been reduced in certain enemy populations. All these changes are really awesome. I was trying to get a feel for it yesterday as I was playing on the patch. I think it'll require just many more Greater Rifts before you can kind of get a full sense of how much better they are. But in general, I was seeing a lot of the more like open area maps, all the good maps that we tend to like, and far less of the caves and keep deaths for sure. So it's exciting. It was a good change. Set dungeons, a few of them got adjusted here. We'll quickly go through them. Unhallowed Essence, the upper right tile for this dungeon has been replaced with one that affords more space from monster spawning for quality of life improvement. Armor of a Khan, the number of times Condemn must hit 10 or more enemies to complete the objective has been reduced from 12 to 10. Delcir's Magnum Opus, the required number of enemies players must hit at once with slow time has been reduced from 30 to 20, and the number of times they must be hit has been increased from 3 to 4. Uliana's Stratagem, the minimum number of enemies players need to hit with a single exploding palm for the first bonus objective has been lowered from 21 to 15, and the number of times it must be performed has been changed from 3 to 4. So they're making these a lot easier to do. You don't have to group as many mobs together, which makes it a little less reliant on RNG, because sometimes if you didn't have the right enemy spawns, you just like couldn't do that run. You just wouldn't be able to get enough stuff together in the amount of time that was necessary to master it. So that's good. I've heard, even I was talking to Bloodshed yesterday about his Ulianas that he had literally just done after the patch had went live, and he said it was, you know, a fairly easy endeavor when I remember banging my head against that one. So it sounds like the changes are working. Here's another good one. Bounties. Bonus acts have been removed. With this change, completing 5 bounties in any act will now grant you a large Horadric chest containing the same contents as the Horadric and bonus caches. This is awesome. So now if you're ever doing bounties on your own, you don't have to worry about like getting disconnected. You're doing Act 1, you do Act 2, you get both of those caches, and all of a sudden, oh, you disconnect. Now you have to wait for like the bonus to be Act 3, Act 4. None of that business anymore. Now you can just hop back in, do Act 3, Act 4, Act 5, and now you have a full set rather than having a disjointed amount or trying to like reconfigure when you're going to do which acts when they're the bonus. And also it really helps against people turning in the wrong act when it's not the bonus, which I have always tried not to do, but do sometimes, and I've seen others do it to me as well. So it'll be nice just to, you know, easily grab whatever, do whatever. Good things. A few more things here. Bug fixes. Fix an issue that caused a specific enemy population of triune cultists in Greater Rifts to spawn the wrong ratio of minions. And people were saying that, you know, these cultists and painmongers, like Dark Berserkers, that kind of population type in Greater Rifts was just broken, like legit OP. All the best Greater Rift clears from last season were with that mob type. So I don't know if this is addressing that, but maybe it is. And we'll have to see if that population type will still dominate or if we'll be able to get good clears across a few different populations. Last but not least, quality of life change. Paragon system. You can now spend 100 Paragon points by holding the control key and left clicking. This is awesome. So previously you would hold shift and click and you could assign 10 points at once. And that was like okay, but when you start to get into like the thousands of Paragon, it's a lot to reassign. So now you can do control and do 100. Really awesome stuff. And that's it for your patch notes. That is 2.5 in a nutshell. You know, the biggest takeaways are, of course, the Armory, the Crafting Mats tab, Primal Ancients, and then some of the reworks to the sets. It should make for a good season 10. It looks like everything's kind of lining up, you know, all those changes coming in, some shifts to the meta perhaps, the banning of bots. I think this might be perhaps one of the most anticipated seasons from my perspective anyways as a competitive player. I'm hoping that it'll, you know, prove to be really solid. We'll be able to play a lot and make some good progress and hopefully get some high leaderboards. So we will see. Again, Season 10 starting up on March 31st. That's the next thing that I'm mainly focused on. I'll have some more video content coming for you guys. But if you like this, you know, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. And don't forget to check out the coming content because, oh my goodness, we're going to hype it up. And then the big 24-hour plus push for Season 10 at the start next Friday. Be there or be a square.